Installing high wattage audio systems and LED light bars are all the rage today, and in order to do that, a lot of times you need specialized wiring connections to hook up to your battery so that you can get the correct voltage and amperage. Going beyond that, a lot of people, especially those off the grid, have a photovoltaic power systems to supply their electricity, and those systems depend on batteries for storage. And to connect to those batteries, frequently you need specialized connections on the end of your cables. You may be able to find off-the-shelf cables that have the correct lug-eye connectors on the end like this, but inconveniently, a lot of them are not the length that you need. That means you need to customize the cable on your own and probably go out and buy some bulk cable and or shorten an existing cable, and then you need to get the correct connection fitted to the end. There are a couple different type of hookups you can have. One is where you have a lug-eye connector like this on one or both ends, and this will hook up to a threaded post on a battery or whatever device you're connecting it to. The other situation is that we're dealing with a battery with lead top post terminals, and you need to customize a cable to hook up to that. In that case, you use something like this, and this will allow you to make the appropriate connection. This just happens to be a positive side, but you would put the positive or the negative depending on whether you're hooking up a power cable or a ground cable. If one of the ends of your cable has to connect to a regular automotive style battery with lead top post terminals, you're going to need something like Tech Team's number 802 clamp-on battery terminal set. This is a complete set. It consists of a negative solid lead top post compression style terminal, positive one, 2 lead terminal shims in case you're connecting to a battery with has a degraded top terminal post, and 2 fiber anti-corrosion washers. Attaching the clamp-on style terminals is a rather easy process, but when we get to the lug style eye terminals, that's a whole different story. To mount the lug end eye style terminal to the one end of the cable, you need several different tools. The most important item is the Tech Team number 791 crimping tool. You also need something to drive the head of the compression tool. You'll need a utility knife to clean up the wire. You'll need a torch to set up the shrink tube. You'll need a hammer or a mallet, and you'll also need, very important, safety glasses, because you'll be dealing with impact and something can easily fly off and cause some type of damage. In addition, you also need a wood cushion to put between the face of the hammer and the face of the crimping tool. This Tech Team number 791 crimping tool is a really neat item. First of all, it's really heavy. It's made from solid steel and it's all heat treated. What makes this work as an effective crimping tool is the fact that the hammer part can easily be moved up and down, and it's spring loaded, so when it gets down onto the lug, it holds it in place. As we pull this thing back, you can look at the anvil, and you can see the anvil is actually laminated pieces of steel, and they're stepped. What this does is give really good bite onto the lug or the terminal end that you have in here, so that when the hammer comes down on it, it makes a good impression and makes a good solid crimp. Now for the story about the piece of wood we have here. If you use the steel hammer to smack on the hammer part of the crimping tool, you run the risk of serious injury. The reason is that both the hammer that you're going to drive this with and this particular hammer are both made from hardened steel, and the compression resulting from the impact of hitting one with the other can very easily cause pieces of the steel to fly off at high velocity. If we're going to use the hammer rather than the mallet, we must put the piece of wood in between so that when we drive on the piece of wood, we still get enough pressure to compress our fitting, but we avoid the risk of injury. We're going to be using a piece of heavy-duty number 2 stranded wire for this exercise, so we need to prepare the end of it For that, we're using our utility knife, and we're stripping back about 3/4 of an inch of the insulation. Now, this is a really important step. You need to clean the cable so that we get bare copper that's going to make contact with either of the fittings we're going to put on the end. Since this is the end that's going to fit into our clamp-on connector, we've cleaned about 3/4 of an inch. Since we want to make a really neat connection on the lug eye end of the cable, we're putting a piece of heat shrink tube over first. This way, after we get the lug anchored, we can slide the sleeve up and then, using the torch, shrink it so we make a good, secure, waterproof connection. Now I'm going to fit the lug eye terminal over the bare end of the wire. One thing you want to pay attention to here is exactly how you put this on and how it faces. The reason is that if you have something on the other end and the wire is fairly short like this one, and it's heavy wire like number 2, you may not be able to twist the wire to make the connection at the other end conveniently. Therefore, think in advance of exactly how you're going to position this so everything lines up without putting stress on the wire or the connections. Okay, now here we go. Step 1 is to elevate the hammer part of the tool. Position our lug so that it's centered and it's right over the anvil part. And we take our safety glasses, don't forget them, and we put them on. And we take either our mallet or a heavy-duty cross-peen hammer like we have here, and we get ready to strike our blow to set the fitting. Since in part this demonstration is all about safety, we're going to use the cross-peen hammer and the piece of wood as a cushion. And we're going to drive on this, just like that. Okay, looks like that's done what we want. Now we lift the hammer and the tool, and we take a really good look at what we've done here, and you can see the indentation here. All right, this has been solidly and securely crimped, so we have a good mechanical and electrical connection. Now to finish off our job, we take our heat shrink tube and we slide it up over the neck of the fitting, just like that. Now we take our torch and we just put gentle heat on this, just like this, and bingo, a perfect finished job. Now we're going to mount our top terminal clamp-on connector. Connecting this is not as exciting or dramatic, and it only requires a 7/16 inch wrench after you have the end of the wire properly prepared. It's really pretty simple. You just have to open the clamp enough so we can get that wire right underneath it, just like this, and then we hand tighten our 2 screws. One of the nice things on this is that, see right here, each one of the nuts fits into a hex socket, so that you only need the 1 wrench to tighten this. Now, once again, you want to make sure that this is oriented properly so it works with the fitting on the other end, so that whatever you're connecting it to is not going to be stressed. Just tighten that guy up like this. You can see that the wire is compressed in there, and we have a really good solid mechanical and electrical connection, and you have your perfectly made custom cable. This is just a demo to show how you can fit the ends to your cable, and you can take any length of cable and make it up with the correct fittings so it's absolutely perfect for your application. You now have the perfect cable that will make right up that thread-on terminal. And if you have other applications to attach and make up additional cables, you can attach multiple cables just like this. Now you're good to go.